Hey Who fans, and welcome to the Big Blue Box podcast. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And this is episode 153.
Woohoo!
Have you ever thought what it's like to be wanderers in the fourth dimension?
Nobody in the universe can do what we're doing.
I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS should be free of the force field now.
There's no point in being grown up if you can't be childish sometimes.
The trouble with time travel is, one never seems to find the time.
Change, my dear, and it seems not a moment too soon.
Unlimited rice pudding, etc., etc.
I am the Doctor!
Great men are forged in fire. It is the privilege of lesser men to light the flame.
I'm the Doctor. This is Rose Tyler. She's my +1. Is that all right?
That would be me.
Hello. Surprise!
Boom!
Etc.
I'm the Doctor. Do everything I tell you, don't ask stupid questions, and don't wander off.
How can you kidneys? I don't like the colour.
Howdy do Who fans. Episode 153. We're here. Hope you've had a cracking week. I know you've managed to do something Doctor Who related.
Oh, I always get it wrong.
Come on.
I always say Doctor Who wise, and it's Doctor Who related, isn't it?
Related, yes.
Should know by now.
Hope you've grabbed a DVD. A certain John Pertwee DVD. It's the Daleks. Come on, old chap. It's the Daleks. We are reviewing Death to the Daleks. A bit later, first of all, we're going to crack on with a couple. It's been very quiet this week. I think this is one of the quietest weeks we've had in terms of what you and I have been up to, plus what's been in the news, plus what's been out merchandise-wise. So, yeah. Really
There's
quiet.
a few tumbleweeds going around, isn't there, at the minute? There's not a lot going on.
There is, because everything seems to have slowed down with the whole Jodie Whittaker thing as well. That's eased up a bit as well. I haven't seen... She hasn't done many... Well, I don't think she's done any recent stuff in the last day or two. And the fans have also... That seems to have quietened off a little bit as well. You know, all the backlash and all the stuff that was kicking off when she was announced, that went on for a week or two, didn't it?
I did see there has been a little bit of I think she's back at the BBC Radio the other week, last week or something.
The end of
I'm
last
not
week,
sure.
I think that was.
I didn't hear it, but I watched a couple of YouTube videos of her meeting the fans coming out, and all got a bit nasty. Not the fans themselves, but there was a load of dealers there. This is something I've experienced myself. It's not very pleasant. And they just keep going around pushing the fans out of the way to get as many autographs as they can. And, the fans were not having it. So it all kicked off a little bit. Well, what I was pleased to see was the guy with Jodie, presumably a PA or whatever, was keeping an eye on who was doing it. So he was very good at saying, no, you've got your autograph, mate, go back like that. And they were still trying to push, and then a fan grabbed their photo and threw it in the air, which didn't go down very well. So it's all kicking off. It's all very unpleasant. I thought, what a shame for Jodie to be, in the middle of that. So, you've got your genuine fans there, really excited to meet her, trying to get an autograph and a photo and moving on. And then you've got these group of dealers just, muscling in, and it all turned a little bit nasty. So I saw two YouTube videos, which were quite interesting, but also just quite unpleasant to watch. And I just felt a bit sorry for Jodie. I was thinking, the Doctor Who fandom is amazing, but that can't have been a very nice experience for her. She signed a lot of autos and then got in her car, but I would imagine she couldn't wait to get away. I was thinking, but I remember a similar thing when I tried to meet Peter Capaldi. In fact, I spotted one of the very dealers, because I see him at every time I try and meet anyone on stage or whatever. He's always there, and he's a nasty piece of work. And I saw him in the video. Funny enough, I spotted him straight away. So I could really relate to what I was watching. I was thinking, yeah, I remember when you elbowed me out the way, and I didn't get to meet Peter Capaldi. I remember you. So yeah, my sympathies for the fans, and it looked like a lot of them got to meet her anyway. It seemed that she was doing her best to get round and sign stuff and loads of selfies. I must admit, that's something I'm looking forward to, mate. I hope the day comes when I get to meet her. I don't know about you. I'm looking forward to the day when I finally get a selfie with Jodie and post it on social media and be like, look who I met. Probably when she's not the Doctor anymore. Who's that? Oh, it's the Doctor, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't wait to meet Jodie. I think it will be...
I'm looking forward to it.
Or probably after she's done Who. and a few years have gone by maybe, and she jumps on some conventions, or she's doing a play somewhere and we accost her as she's coming out the stage door or something like that. But or unless we go to a filming, if we manage to muscle our way into a location shoot somewhere, because sometimes they do. You do get groups of fans who somehow get word of where they're filming on location, and they turn up. And I know Capaldi's very good with actually welcoming fans, not encouraging it, but if they do show up, he's very generous with his time and will sign stuff. There was an interesting story actually, wasn't there, when we went to a Comic-Con a few weeks back. One of the Rusty, what's his name? Rusty somebody, the guy who played Little John in Forest, Robin of
Robot of Sherwood.
Robot of Sherwood, yeah.
Yeah.
Crikey. I need more coffee, obviously. And he was saying that when they were shooting out in somewhere in Wales, some forest, the night before, when they arrived at the hotel, and they said, "Are you?" And he said, "Yes, I'm." Because he didn't want to give his name or what they were doing, and it was this massive secrecy thing, wasn't there? I don't know if you were in the
I remember,
yeah. And he was saying, so yeah, we had to sign all these non-disclosure agreements, and we weren't allowed to say our real names, and we weren't allowed to say what we were doing, and it was all this massive Area 51 style silence thing. And then the next day they were out on location, and then lo and behold, he looks through the forest. There's like half a dozen Who fans with telephoto lenses and the whole lot, and he was like, "What's the point of
point?"
Yeah. So I imagine if we went undercover, if we got some camo gear, and we stalked them for a bit, we might get lucky. And although that's a bit creepy and weird, isn't it?
It's a bit weird, isn't it? I know there's a lot. I mean, that's the thing. I think the best one for me was when like like you said, if you see them on filming, like if they're filming where you live, then I think fair enough, because like where I live, they've filmed a few things, and I've gone out and watched it being filmed, and and got a picture with whoever's in it, because I live here, and it's like literally been at the end of my road at one filming thing. So I think that's fair enough. If you're there and you're part of it, I think it's fair enough to go up and ask or whatever. But I think I don't know, if you're sort of traveling 200 miles just to go there, I think, because for me, my best experience with something like that was the BFI Series 10 premiere, right? So we go, there was Peter Capaldi was there, Stephen Moffat was there, Paul Mackie was there, and when they came out, they stood there and signed autographs and had photos. And I thought, well, this is sort of how it's meant to be, because they've done the thing. Now they're coming out meeting the fans, and now they're off, and that was just perfect. I thought, they're there for an event, and it was just a nice way to sort of end it. Although Peter didn't sign any autographs that day, and that is because of the dealers, which I mentioned earlier. He will only dedicate autographs now. He's got wise to that, and I again think that's absolutely fair enough. I think if you're getting an autograph, presumably it's for you, so why not get it dedicated? So. But that's a nice experience. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like I was sort of bothering him on set or interrupting his work. He's there for a premiere, and then he's meeting fans and going home. So that's felt like quite a natural environment to meet him, if you know what I mean. So I'd love something like that with Jodie. That would be, imagine if they did like a Series 11 premiere or something, and you got to meet her there. I think that's the nicest way to do it, really. Or a convention, like you said. That's another way to do it. Obviously, it costs you a bit of money, but that's the other way to do it. But at least it's official when you're not interrupting them when they're trying to work. Because what was I watching recently where I was thinking, this is a great scene. It must have been, I know, it's when we were watching The Runaway Bride last week. Yeah. And I was thinking a lot of that's filmed on the streets of Cardiff. And I was thinking, I'm just picturing like loads of fans on the other side of the camera and them trying to sort of act on the street with loads of people watching them. It must be slightly off-putting, actually. Yeah. You know what I mean? You've got to try and block all that out, and it's a bit like what I'm trying to say is when you try and do something in front of someone, it's not always that easy. So when I'm making a video, I always do it when I'm on my own, because if anyone else is in the house, I'm self-conscious. Yeah, it's like you can't suddenly your mouth doesn't work because someone's in the room, or or you're not 100% concentrating on it. So I was thinking they must get the same thing if they're on the streets and they've got this massive crowd. Like imagine Sherlock, that gets a massive crowd every time they film anywhere. It must be quite off-putting, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's a good reason for, in the pilot Rose, There's a good reason why most of the location shots are in the middle of the night, early hours of the morning, with the exception of some of the estate shots around where Rose lived. You know, in the estate where she lives, they were filmed during the day. But if you look at any of the scenes where they're by the London Eye, and then back in Cardiff, where they're at the shopping centre and on the supposed streets of London, which is actually Cardiff, that's all at like 2 a.m.
Yeah,
3 a.m, because it was just would have been too much. You know, the brand new series of Doctor Who being filmed on, you know, Cardiff High Street or whatever busy shopping centre it was. Yeah, that would have been crazy.
Yeah, it would have been mad.
Yeah, so I get you, man. I get it's a case of you do it the correct way, which is just be patient and wait for a convention or whatever, or you get your USAS combat gear on and you go stalking them during a location shoot. But that doesn't sound much fun to me.
Take your pick. Talking of conventions, I see Pearl Mac has just been added to a UK com, which is great. It's nice to see some new series people doing stuff, because Matt Lucas did LFCC, and Pearl's doing MCon, but I forget where. Is it Sheffield or something like that?
No, I believe it's Nottingham.
Nottingham?
Yes, MCon Nottingham next year. Yes.
Yeah, oh, cool.
I was quite surprised to see that. Don't know about you.
I was really pleased. Yeah, I was like, excellent. Just great to see her like getting straight into the convention circuit and you know, and embracing the role. And yeah, I just thought it was brilliant, actually. I was really chuffed.
Yeah, she's going to be there both days, and prices are not too bad considering she's fresh out of new Doctor Who. So an autograph is 35 and a photo is 40.
Seems to be becoming about the norm, that, doesn't it? I think Matt Lucas was 40 for photo, 40 for auto at LFCC.
Yeah.
So it's creeping up there, isn't it? But I mean, it does seem to be about the standard price. I wouldn't say. I mean, I would personally, I would pay that, because when I think, you know, when they start creeping up around the 50 plus, then I start thinking someone's taking the Michael. But I think 35 is about right. I think is not too bad.
Yeah,
you get a nice signed picture.
Yeah, it's not too bad. But the thing is, though, the convention for a long time, for many years, the UK convention scene was always viewed as what's the word? It was always viewed as the very little brother to the US conventions. We were very, very behind in terms of its scale and hype and all that stuff. Yeah. And now that we're getting bigger stars over here, which is great, don't get me wrong, it's great. The side effect of that comes with that is now the organisers are very aware that because there are thousands of people, you know, thousands more people attending, there's more money to be made. So they'll increase prices of these things, you know, and they'll make more money from it. So in a way, it's great, because you and I have complained for the last 2 or 3 years that we don't get, you know, the big convention vibe that they have over in the US, and we don't have the you know, the big stars and stuff. So now that that's coming along, we can't really complain about the other stuff that has to go with it. I suppose we have to just take that as that's the convention scene as it is these days.
Yeah, I totally hear you. Yeah, I was going to say, because it's a bit like the two that I'd love to see at a convention in the UK in the next couple of years would be David Tennant and Matt Smith. I mean, I'd just go mad if they did a UK convention.
Go mad.
I would go mad. But I would also be prepared for the price to be quite high to meet them. So Benedict Cumberbatch was, what was he, 85 at LFCC? Somewhere around there, wasn't he? In the 80s price range. So if Tennant and Smith got added, I would expect them to be around that same sort of price. So, and to be honest with you, because they are two of the people I would absolutely love to meet, although I have met Matt Smith, but I've never got a picture with him and stuff, you know, I just think I would be prepared to go around that price. I wouldn't want to. I would much rather it be around 50, 60, even lower, but the chances are, if they ever do a UK con, they are going to be that sort of price, because they can charge it in the States, so that to be even tempted to do one over here, they've got to be offered a good wage. So to cover that, it's got to be a good cost. Showmasters have got to make their money, and obviously, you know, so it's going to be expensive. But yeah, I don't know. I just love to see them do it. I just hope it's in the next couple of years they come over here, because Tennant does a lot of US ones. A friend of mine on Twitter was saying he's over here all the time. He's my friend who lives in America. He's like, yeah, he loves doing the US cons. I was like, does he?
Yeah, he does.
When's he coming over here?
Yeah, because he was on The Late Show with somebody this week, or the end of last week. He's talking about several things. Obviously, they kicked off about Doctor Who, and all that stuff, because also on the show was somebody else that had been in Who, can't remember, and they had a bit of banter around there, and so yeah, he's there all the time. And it seems,
I can't blame him, but yeah.
No, I mean, I think because he's starring in various US things over the last couple of years, so he's a busy man, but. Yeah, it would just be. I think it will happen. I think in the next sort of 5 years, maybe, depending. Yeah, I think we will see him here, especially because LFCC and the really big the MCM Expo at the Excel in London, because they're growing, quite quickly. It's only been in the last 2 or 3 years, isn't it, that we've seen the big stars turn up. I think it all started with when Stan Lee attended LFCC a few years ago, and then we had people like Michael J. Fox and Gillian Anderson and Jeremy Renner from the event, all these big people that have, the last few years have decided to attend. And it's just, so I think as it grows, that will attract them as well, because that obviously means more money. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's difficult to talk about that stuff, but at the end of the day, they're there as like a two-fold thing. They're there for the fans, but they're also there because the money's good.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So, yeah. Also at MCon next year in Nottingham, at the moment, the only other Who star is Dan Starkey. He's going to be there as well.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. But other than that, it's just a few other people, nothing Who related, Star Wars and a few US TV people. But yeah, that might be an okay one to get along to.
Someone was asking me yesterday, when's your next convention? I said, well, actually, this goes back to what we were just talking about. I said, actually, I'm still paying off LFCC. It completely obliterated me in terms of money. So, yeah, I am looking to, because obviously you get withdrawals, don't you? You're probably the same. I'm sort of itching to, when's my next convention after LFCC? But actually, I've really got to rein it in and pay off what I spent at that first, because that was a great event, but man, did I spend some money. I can't. I'm actually too scared to add it all up, because I know it'd be extortionate. I probably could have gone to Barbados for what I spent at that, but I loved it. But yeah, I am keeping my eye on what's out there. I think Peter Davison might be doing a MCon, but I forget where. I'm sure I saw him on one.
Don't think
unless
so.
it was one that's gone already. No,
I don't think so. I actually got my stars and dates mixed up there. Dan Starkey's not at Nottingham with Pearl Mackie.
Oh, right.
He's at MCon Leicester.
Leicester.
Yeah, so Nottingham, it's Pearl Mackie, then some people from Star Trek The Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then MCon Leicester, Dan Starkey's there with Katie Manning.
Oh, lovely Katie.
Yeah. And there's one in Skegness as well. Didn't realise they did one over there. Dan Starkey's there as well. They also do one in Bedford.
I think that might be the one that Davison was at. Maybe it's the previous one then. Yeah.
No, he's there. Peter Davison.
Yeah.
MCon
Is it?
Bedford. Yeah, that's only up the road for us.
Is it?
Well, for me anyway. It's only like half an hour away. 45 minutes.
Okay, because I'd like to. I've got a picture with Davison, but he doesn't do any of the. He hasn't done an LFCC or Collectomania for years, and I'd love to get a proper professional photo with him.
I tell you what, mate. MCon Bedford is a winner next year.
Yeah. It's next year.
Yeah, September next year. Oh, sorry, no, September this year. Holy moly!
Oh.
Holy moly! This year. Oh, this is awesome. So Peter Davison's there. Terry Malloy.
Oh, he's brilliant.
Sarah Sutton. Kai Owen from Torchwood.
He's a nice guy, yeah.
I think this is a winner, mate.
Wow.
Tickets
I'll have to have
only
a look
tenner.
at that.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yes.
That's more like it.
Yeah.
How much is Davison's auto and photo?
Let me just investigate.
I'm going to guess while you're looking.
Go on in.
40.
20 quid.
Really?
20 quid, mate.
Oh, now that's not bad, is it?
What
was I just saying about not spending?
Literally within a matter of minutes, Adam is edging ever closer to being single.
Yeah, you don't know the truth of it.
So anyways, that's Gary and Adam's convention lore, tips, tricks, advice. Take it as you will. But if there's anybody knocking around in September, Saturday the 9th of September, it is around the Bedfordshire area in the south of England. We'll see you there. By the sound of it.
It's only a couple of weeks away, isn't it, that? Blimey.
It is, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. So there we go.
There we are.
I suppose we should get we should get back on with the show, shouldn't we?
We should really, yeah.
Should we land it and do some news?
Do a bit of news.
First up, I like it when publishers and people do this kind of stuff. And we've mentioned about half a dozen of these type of things over the last year or so, and I think they're really good.
Yeah.
And it's about encouraging new writers and new artists and so on within the Who community and fandom. So Candy Jar Books, the guys, you'd have heard us mention Candy Jar numerous times since the very first Lethbridge Stewart novel was published. Our good friend, Mr. Andy Frankham-Allen, launched that series back in, what was it, 2015?
Oh, golly, is it already? Yeah, probably is.
I think it was 2015, yeah.
Blimey.
And that series has grown and grown, and they've got new authors writing, stories all the time. And although I think Andy's recently just moved on from that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what was going on, but yeah, I think he might have done, yeah.
Yeah, so I think he's moved on, but he is still going to attend this event. So on the 17th of August, which is actually tomorrow. So if you're listening to this on podcast day, it happened yesterday. But the submissions are going to be open until the end of September, so that's fine. But so Candy Jar are doing something called the Candy Jar Books South Wales Festival. And it's going to be at the Cardiff Central Library at 1:00. And there's going to be various authors there from the range. And they're going to do a panel there. And before that, I'm pretty sure there's going to be somebody doing a drawing class as well. So I think that was one of the guys that did one of the cover art for one of the books. But they're going to be a panel, and Andy's there as well. He's going to be talking about the range in general and writing and so on. But the good thing is, once the event has been and gone, which it will have done by the time you've listened to this, they're opening up submissions for people to get their stories into them. And those successful stories will be published in a book that will be out some point early next year, 2018. So let me just find the details here. So all submissions need to be in by the end of September, and there is a £5 fee for your entry. And you can look at we'll put a link in the show notes, but there's like some terms and conditions and some stuff that you have to make sure that your story conforms to. Like there's a certain word count, and you can only submit 2 stories, I believe. However, if you are a budding writer and you've got some great ideas for Who specifically, I'm not sure if your story has to relate to Lethbridge Stewart. I'm assuming it potentially does.
Not sure.
Yeah, so let's have a look. So your story, you can submit up to 2 short stories, and they have to be up to 3,000 words each. And it's open to all unpublished writers in the UK. So if you're a successful author, you have to stay successful.
Yeah,
and not submit a story. However, I think this is really good, and like I said earlier, I love it when people encourage fans to do that, because there's a new book coming out later on in the year that's got like it's 100 illustrated stories about Who, and we mentioned that months and months ago. I think it was January potentially or February, and that was to encourage people to submit their fan art, and now that's going to be published. That's really cool. So this is the same thing. So if you've got some great ideas in your head and you've had a dab at writing and you want to get your stuff out there, this could be this could be your avenue to do so. So we'll stick a link in the website for this. So unfortunately, by the time you've listened to this, the event would have passed in Cardiff. However, you can still get your story in, or stories, by the end of September. So that's the Candy Jar South Wales Festival. Yes.
That's very cool. And of course, a lot of fans that wrote for Doctor Who just as fan fiction back in the day are now writing for the show. So
exactly. Yeah.
Who knows where it could lead? And I know a lot of people who listen to our show are budding writers as well, because forever getting messages about fan audios and stuff that people do. So yeah, good luck with that, guys. Have a look at it and go for it. Right. In other news, sad news actually, Victor Pemberton has passed away. He was a writer and the inventor of the sonic screwdriver, which of course has become really well known in Doctor Who over the years, especially in the new series, I would say. So yeah, it's very sad news. He died at the age of 85, as well as writing for Doctor Who. So he wrote Fury from the Deep, which featured the departure of Victoria. He was also was he a director? I've forgotten now.
No, he did. Yeah, he wrote. He wrote Fury of the Deep, and then he went on to do some other stuff with Who. After that, I think he did some audio adventure stuff.
I'll tell you what I'm getting confused with. He also appeared in it, didn't he? I was thinking he might have directed some. No, so he wrote for Doctor Who, but he also appeared as an actor. So he was in the Moonbase.
That's right.
Playing a scientist. That's it. So yeah, it's very, very sad news. But we will be forever grateful for the fact that he invented the sonic screwdriver. I, for one, even though Matt Smith's Doctor massively overused it, love the sonic screwdriver. Yeah. When I was a kid, I used to want to have the Fourth Doctor Sonic, and I used to use my dad's tyre pressure gauge as a sonic screwdriver. So you can imagine I was thrilled when they finally released a toy of it all those years later. So, yes.
Yeah, that is sad, isn't it? It's but however, it's a good celebration of his involvement in Doctor Who.
Yes,
because he did go on to write a few other things. So he wrote Doctor Who and the Pescatons.
Oh, yeah, I've got that.
Yeah, starring Tom Baker and Liz Sladen. So that was really cool. And then he did some Target novelizations as well. And so, yeah, great career. Involved, obviously, heavily in Doctor Who, like you said, with the Sonic. But yes, sadly leaves us at 85.
I did see him pop up in a few extras as well, actually. I remember that's the first thing I thought of, funny enough, when I heard this news is, on the DVD extras, I saw him on some of the behind the scenes things that they have on there and that. And so, yeah, sad news, but it leaves behind a good legacy.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That's going to do for news. We have got one bit of merch, so shall we get our tin friend in and see what he's got?
I don't know. What sort of mood is he in today?
Well, what mood is he always in?
I know.
Miserable sod. Right, let's get him in.
Merch corner. Merch corner. Merch corner.
I don't know whether to be impressed or disgusted.
It's a bit rubbish, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
Very pretty. Right. Get out. Always the same. Always just hangs around like he thinks he's going to be on the show or something.
No. Yeah.
Anyways.
Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. Right. You may have heard us speak about this, a companion to what we're going to talk about today. So I think it must have been a few months ago. We strangely spoke about an upcoming Halloween-y type horror book that was going to be released. Doctor Who Tales of Terror. That book is going to be out in September. But, well, what was I going to say? Surprisingly, but unsurprisingly, they're going to release an audio CD, an audiobook version of the book, which is going to be read by various peeps, which is good. So it's not just one person reading through your standard audiobook affair. There's going to be people such as Sir Derek Jacobi reading a story, Sophie Aldred, Rachel Sterling, and some other people. David Bailey. There's a couple of names on here that now I'm reading them. They do ring a bell.
Yeah, David Bailey. Yeah. Sounds familiar, but I can't think who he is. Yeah.
Yes, and I can't think. But anyways.
I'm going to Google him.
So yeah, the book is out on September the 7th, and this audio CD will also be out on September 7th. You can order them from various places. Amazon is probably the best price at the moment. ForbiddenPlanet.com have also got it. And I assume some other, like Forbidden Planet International and some other people might get it. W.H. Smith and those sorts of people. But yeah, I mentioned this earlier before we started recording. I'm actually excited for this one because I really enjoy when Doctor Who does the seasonal Christmas or Halloween-y type stuff. So I really like this, and it sounds strange, but I really like it when Doctor Who tries to do like scary horror type stuff as well.
Yeah.
And this book seems to, and this CD that we're talking about seems to fit the bill perfectly. So I'm not sure on the content yet. I'm not sure how far they've gone with the horror, whether it's aimed at sort of younger readers and listeners and going to be quite light, or if it's going to be more for adults and really will try and, give you goosebumps and things like that. But yeah, I might pick this up, mate. I know you're not. Well, I'm not.
It's not grabbing me, although actually I love Halloween, but it's not grabbing me. But I don't know, having said that, I've looked at some of the writers. So Jacqueline Rayner's good, Mike Tucker's good, Paul Marks is great. So it's got some good people doing the stories. So yeah, I might do. I'll have a look at it when it comes out. I've got to tell you, I've just Googled David Bailey because I knew the name rang a bell. Guess who he is?
Go on, because it's
Let me in.
Oh, really?
He's from Robots of Death. You know the guy who starts turning silver and goes crazy.
Yes, yeah.
It's him.
I knew it when I saw that name. I thought we've seen him before.
Yeah,
definitely.
I couldn't think. It sounds awful, but I thought he was dead. But no, I did. Honestly, I'm not joking. So yeah, it's him.
Yeah. Oh, okay. That's cool. So there's quite a few people involved in Who that have done the audio CD then.
Yes, yeah.
So that's good.
That is good.
And if you want to pick them up together, then Amazon, they do that. If you buy these together, you can get a couple of pounds off, whatever. So I think for £36 you can get this and another audio CD as well. Which one's that? The 12 Doctors of Christmas. Mm. Remember that book? There's an audio CD of that as well, so you can pick them both up. So there's various ways you can buy them, the book and the CD, or together, or bundles, whatever. But yeah, I might investigate this one. I think it's going to be quite good.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
And that's what we're going to do for merch. No more stuff on the horizon.
Probably good for our wallets that there isn't.
For our wallets and our relationships and our sanity.
Yeah. It's
probably good that there's not much on the radar at the moment. Until that Robert Harrop newsletter lands.
Oh, don't.
It's game over.
Do you want to know something just quickly? Something happened yesterday.
Oh, no.
My friend picked up the Davros figure from the Who shop when we were there the other weekend, and it was blimmin' gorgeous. Yeah. And then he messaged me and said, oh, just to let you know, on their website it says last few remaining. I was like, no, I must not miss out on Davros. Tuesday after work, I was on there. I could see that on the website, last few remaining. But it was £90, but I got 10% off, so it was 84. I was like, yeah, mustn't get that until I get paid at the end of the month. Mustn't get it. And then, so I woke up the next day. I was like, no, I'm not going to miss out. I'm going to get him online. He's gone. Sold out. No, I was only on there last night. But yeah, I really couldn't afford him, so it's a good thing. But I'll tell you, if you want those Robert Harrop, do not hesitate because they just go.
Yeah,
so,
that's very true. Don't hang around because
don't hang around.
You and I have fallen into that trap many times.
Oh, I sort of was gutted, but also sort of relieved because I couldn't really afford him. But now he'll be like £200 on eBay. So
yeah, we've done that many times where we've hovered over the confirm button, pulled out. Hover. And then literally within, just like what's happened to you, within 24 hours, it's gone.
It's gone.
Yeah, so especially with the Robert Harrop stuff, it seems to, because they don't have any cleverness on their website yet that says there's only 3 left or there's only...
No, that's what they've just started doing.
Oh, they have now.
Right. Yeah, but they've literally just started doing it. So yeah, it used to be quite annoying. You didn't know, but now it said last few remaining, and then the 10th Planet Cyberman, it said last one left. So I was thinking this is cool because they redid their website about 2 weeks ago, didn't they?
Oh, of course, yeah.
It seems like they've started, and I hope they continue to do it because it's really good. Just means you have to keep checking back, but
yeah. And they've got this rubbing salt in the wound update on their website now, where they put a massive sold out badge across the image.
That's it, yeah.
Just to make you regret that non-purchase even more. Yeah. But yes, I do agree. The Robert Harrop stuff, if you are thinking of getting one, then you really need to stop thinking and get it, because they do go. And what's quite annoying as well is ones that are particular figures that have been in stock for quite some time, that lulls you into a false sense of security as well, because you think, it's been in stock for bloody months and months. It will still be there next month when I want to buy it. And then you go on and it's like, they really did sell out. That's annoying.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what happened with Davros, because like, they've had him for months. So why would he sell out now that I actually want him? And of course he has.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Anyways, we should crack on with our review.
We should.
Yeah. What are we going to do this week, mate?
This week, John Pertwee classic, Death to the Daleks.
Some power in this planet to stop the TARDIS's energy banks.
You mean that we're stuck here forever?
Into a military expedition?
MSc.
Master of Science?
Marine Space Corps.
The relief ship is here! Come on, quickly!
Here she comes!
The Earth creatures are to be exterminated.
Wait, you can't!
Total extermination! Fire! Fire! Fire!
Well. Daleks without the power to kill.
I think our best interest will be served by joining forces.
The truce exists between our party and yours.
Don't you trust them an inch.
Substitute weaponry functioning satisfactorily.
Take cover!
We've walked into a trap.
Locate the enemy.
What are you doing with her?
She is to be sacrificed.
This planet is now under Dalek control.
We are powerless to stop them.
Fugitives are to be exterminated on sight.
You must stay silent or you will destroy us all. It is beyond our power to help him now.
Oh. Little Belal.
Yeah.
Balal, yeah. Death to the Daleks. This was first brought to our screens back in 1974.
Wow.
End of Feb through to the middle of March. It was a 4-parter, 25 minutes each. It was written by Terry Nation and directed by Michael Bryant. Overseen by Terence Dix and Robert Holmes, but you won't see their names adorned on this one. Because I think they did quite a few episodes uncredited, didn't they?
They were sort of in the background, weren't they?
Yeah.
Overseeing things.
Yeah, so this is a third Doctor story, Mr. Pertwee, Sarah Jane Smith, and a fairly small-ish supporting cast. We have people we have like a group of humans, we have a group of aliens playing the Exelons, and then we have the Daleks, which you obviously don't see. Small cast, but quite interesting. A couple of the supporting cast, we had some varying performances.
Yes.
In our supporting humans, and as I said, the Exelons, they're very different, and the two factions of the Exelons and the Daleks. So story-wise, it's fairly simplistic. I really love these Doctor Who stories, and they've used it a few times throughout the years where everything's coasting along lovely. In this case, the Doctor and Sarah are on their way to the beach, and we have that great. Whoever thought up this originally, this might even been the first story that did it. I'm not sure, or maybe it was a Troughton one years ago. But really cool when they're just coasting along and everything's fine, and then this button appears on the TARDIS console that sometimes they've never even seen it before. But this button appears and it's flashing away, and naturally that means danger. It means that something is afoot. So the power goes as the TARDIS lands, the power's all out, there's this flashing red light, and that means something's bad.
Yeah.
So they investigate. The power's shot to bits. they venture out and they get embroiled in this sort of battle between the humans that are there to mine this precious substance or mineral or something. What's it? Perineum.
That's it.
Perineum, yeah. Because the human race is on the verge of extinction due to this massive illness that's sweeping, and they need this to farm this cure and antidote and all that stuff. The Daleks arrive because it turns out that they're on the brink of popping their clogs as well, so they need the perineum also. But then caught in the middle with the Exelons on the planet Exelon, obviously, and they're not having any of it. So there's like this constant battle to and fro where the humans trying to mine this stuff. The Daleks turn up, they want it as well. But because the powers, this huge city that the Exelons constructed many moons ago, essentially drains the power of any landing spaceship and so on. The humans, the Doctor, and the Daleks all find themselves in the same boat, and hilarity ensues when the Daleks try and shoot them, but they got no power to power their lasers and stuff. So they form an alliance that clearly isn't going to last. And then in the midst of all this, they find this other faction of Exelons that are living underground, the Subterraneans, and so it's a kind of it's not really a cat and mouse thing, but it's very much these people are doing that, these people are doing that, these people are doing that, and then at the end it all sort of comes together. You know how these stories they go through. So, so what are your thoughts on this Pertwee Dalek story?
Yes, it's an odd one, this, isn't it? Don't you think? It's an odd story. I don't think it's a particularly good story, and yet I really enjoyed watching it. So that's what I mean when I say it's a bit of an odd one. Like, there's so much wrong with it, but it's kind of a real fun watch. So yeah, I don't know. I'm somewhere in the middle on this one. There's some great bits in it. There are some things I absolutely love about it. And I just, for a 4-parter, it whizzed along, and I sat there and I thought, I'm really liking this, but it's just full of all Terry Nations tropes that he uses in every blimmin' Dalek story.
Yeah.
The TARDIS power failure, survivors. It's just everything. I'm surprised there's no radiation in this, because nearly every Terry Nation story ever had, they immediately there's radiation, and this is one of the few that doesn't. But it's got all his other tropes in there, so it's quite a lazy script, I think, from him. But there are things about it I love, and like I said, I did enjoy watching it. So yeah, I mean the whole thing with the Daleks coming out and their guns not working. I mean, just that real simple idea, but I thought that's quite nice, because then they go back to basics of having this sort of almost machine gun type thing, don't they?
That's right.
So that was quite interesting. The Daleks look great. It was silver and black. They just look fantastic. I love seeing them on location. But yeah, supporting cast are a bit dull. Pertwee looks like he's bored out of his brain in it, to be fair. The whole maze bit in episode 3 is just a way of filling time. I don't know, as I said, there's so many things wrong with it, but that all aside, I sort of have a soft spot for it, and I really enjoyed watching it. So yeah, I don't know, a bit of an odd one for me, this.
Yeah, I completely agree. I thought that after watching it. I thought I enjoyed it. It wasn't a bad watch. However, there are things that just make it a bit of an oddball.
Yeah.
Like you, I really like this Dalek design, the white and black, or the silver and black. The construction of the Daleks was completely terrible. Like the dome section on top, when the actor inside is moving it around, it's wobbling all over the shop and is not stable at all. It almost falls off one of them at some point.
And especially when they're knocking into each other.
And various other parts of the Dalek at various scenes are falling off, and they're not straight and all that. So one thing anyone that's been into the Pertwee years and have watched a lot of his stories will know that this, and probably the first half of the Tom Baker years, because it's now in colour, you can really see how little amount of money they had, because everything just looks terrible. Like, even the sets, like there's one bit where you mentioned in episode 3 where they're going through the maze, which, you know, that whole episode 3 is just a filler episode, really, isn't it? You know, but there's one scene where, you know, the electronic door supposedly, you know, rises up, but the way that the camera's shot, you can see one of the builders' initials on the set where they've painted it, and
I didn't even notice that.
So, you know, when they've, you know, in the builder's trade and stuff, whenever you've done decorating or whatever, and you're doing something, you always see like measurements written onto bits of timber and stuff like that. You can see it on the set, and it's part of the doorway. It's not like it was, and it wasn't.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, it wasn't painted over, and then everything's got terrible scuff marks all over it, and it looks like a real mess. You know, so you could tell that they had to quickly get this stuff constructed and shot, and because there was so much going on, they didn't have time to go back and, you know, give it some polish and, you know, make it look. Because I understand there was a certain, maybe it was an artistic thing, I'm not sure, because one of the things that really surprised people when they first saw Star Wars was that some of the ships just looked so beat up and messy and stuff, and that was completely by design, because sci-fi before that, everything was very polished and clean, shiny acrylic and clean. Everything looked like it was built yesterday. So maybe there was an element of that, but, you know, everything has got where they've had to reshoot a lot of stuff. Because if you've seen the special features on this, which I did at like midnight last night, you can tell that, you know, that they'll go through and do a scene like 3 or 4 times, and then there's like stunt people and set workers, you know, they're moving stuff around. So yeah, watching this, it does make me think, oh man, I just wish the Beeb had coughed up a little bit more money so they had more time and people to hire to do this stuff. However, I'll caveat everything I'm saying with something that I always say, and that's part of the charm of Classic Who, you know, wobbly fiberglass MDF sets and scuffed sets and all that stuff. It's part of the charm, but
it is, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're not the original Daleks, just repainted, actually, because they do look a bit fragile, shall we say?
Indeed,
if you like. I mean, it's quite overlit, the sets, I think, but I like the location stuff though. I think that the location stuff looks good. Apart from and then you probably wouldn't have seen this in the day, but you know that thing that rises up from the water, and you can clearly see all the strings moving it.
The piano wire.
That's the piano wire, but you probably wouldn't have seen that back in the day, because obviously this is, you know, DVD heightens these things, or you might have seen it, but probably not as much. But yeah, funny enough, I watched the special features as well, because there's a really interesting one on there, isn't there? It's just the raw studio footage of them filming it, and it's so interesting to see Pertwee working, I think. I don't know about you. I was just like, because he fluffs a lot of lines, and he's getting really frustrated with himself, isn't he?
Yeah.
And obviously he's working opposite Liz Sladen, who is very new to the team. It's only her second story, I think, isn't it?
It's
I don't know where it came in production, but I think
second or third. Yeah,
it's very early on in their relationship, so, you know, they haven't really got to know each other much yet, I don't think. So, you know, when he fluffs his lines in front of her, he's really like embarrassed and apologetic, and she sort of doesn't know how to react, I don't think. She sort of just stands there and says, no, fine. And I feel a bit sorry for Pertwee, actually, because the cameraman, Pertwee has to pick up from a certain point, and the cameraman's like, oh, I'll have to move the camera back then, you know. And I was thinking, go on, make the man feel even worse, you know, just like, you know. But it's fascinating to see them filming this. And if anyone hasn't watched the special features or hasn't got this DVD and is thinking of getting it, really, it's so worth watching them. It's fascinating to see the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah, I thought that it's because they have the typical behind this making of featurette, don't they? Which has got several people that were in it, and Briggs is in it. Yeah, but this other one, I think it's just called the Studio something, and it's uninterrupted as well, which is what I like. So all it does is just the camera just keeps rolling between takes and so on, and all you have is some descriptive text at the bottom in yellow that just says they're referring to Jim, who's like, you know, the camera operator, or they're referring to John, who's in the costume at the moment. And there's this great bit where there's some Exelons up on the cliff.
Oh, the poor, yeah.
Yeah, and the stunt guy, who's Pertwee's regular...
Terry Walsh.
Terry Walsh, yeah, he's in the costume, and there's a bit of text that says he was so hot he passed out, and there's a bit, and it's quite funny as well, because it says the atrocious 70s mattress at the bottom where he lands on and stuff. And it's really, like you, mate, I found it fascinating, especially when you see the actors going through their scenes, and they'll fluff a line, and they go, right, reset, back, and they all sort of give this, here we go, and
here we go again. You can feel the frustration of they just want to get it done, can't you?
Yeah.
It's interesting to see Pertwee almost taking a director's role as well, because there's a bit where he's like, they're supposed to be looking at the spaceship, and Pertwee's like, are we looking at the same spot or not? Because, I love the fact he was concerned about little details like that, the fact that they might all be looking in different directions. So it was just brilliant to see him wanting to get stuff right.
Yeah.
Because, I said earlier he looks bored in this series, and I say that because Pertwee wasn't a fan of the Daleks. We all know that. He wasn't a monster he was ever very excited about being up against, and he does have quite a few Dalek stories, unfortunately. So, but I just felt that he wasn't really throwing himself into this story particularly, although I still thought he was very good in it. I'll tell you what, though, it's amazing they've still got that footage, because this story was actually wiped, wasn't it, originally? When the BBC...
Yep. It was. I think it was the third story.
Was the last serial.
Oh, the last one, yeah.
Yeah, to have an episode wiped.
Yeah.
So it's incredible that they've got this amazing behind-the-scenes footage at all, and it's pretty good quality. It's almost the same quality as the actual program as well, isn't it? It's not like fuzzy or black and white. It's actually proper colour behind-the-scenes footage. So
yeah, well,
it's a real treat.
And this is one of those unfortunate... Actually, no, that's the wrong word. This is one of those ironic situations in missing Doctor Who. And I wish this would happen with the Troughton years. Because this was, like you say, this was the last time that the BBC went through that, well, we've made the show and it's been broadcast, so now we'll just wipe it so we can reuse the tape.
Yeah.
And it was lost for a long time. And then there was somewhere in the archive, in the BBC, I don't know whereabouts in the archive, but they found this strange NTSC version. So, so NTSC is what was broadcast over in the US. So they must have converted it for US broadcast at some point, or another country that uses NTSC. So they found this recording of it somewhere, so they obviously didn't wipe it. Somebody must have backed it up or put it onto this tape for conversion first and then wiped the original tape. And then, miraculously, 2 PAL recordings were found. 2 separate versions of it were found in Dubai, of all places.
Wow.
And so what was once thought lost forever, this one version shows up, and then they find 2 other versions of it, really clean, nice copies of it. So why can't that happen with some of the Troughton years? Why can't this container be found somewhere and it's got them all in this pristine case somewhere?
We live in hope, mate, because I tell you, I did think it looked a little bit grainy, but God, when you consider what they must have had to done to remaster it, the picture quality looks great. In fact, it's only really the first episode, because a lot of that's quite dark. It looks a bit murky, doesn't it? But once we get into the rest of it, it's good quality. Yeah, it's still a bit rough around the edges because when it was made and because of what they've had to deal with. But I'm so glad that this does exist, though, because it's a story I'll happily sit there and watch. It'd be a real shame if this didn't exist in the BBC archives, because it's it might not be the best Dalek story, but it's a real good oddity.
It is.
I think this one, yeah. And
it was also quite inspirational to a couple of people involved in Doctor Who. So if you look at this, if you watch the special features and some of the interviews segments with Nick Briggs, he did say that when he was really young in school, the first tune that he learned to play was the sort of, it almost sounds like monks chanting and stuff. He learned that was the first thing. Everyone else was off learning London's Burning and all that stuff, and he's learning this.
Yeah.
And then he said that it is his voice for when he does the Daleks, it's kind of based on this, because this was, this is the Dalek story that sort of spoke to him the most. And I think his feelings, and a lot of people's feelings, ours included, are it's a fun story. You know, it's a good fun watch. You know, it's a good Doctor Who watch, but it does have its oddities and its strangeness.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we're going with it, isn't it? It's a good watch. It's not a bad. You don't sort of sit there and think, oh, this is terrible. I can't wait for this to crack on. You know, it's not bad, but it just has these weird story decisions that you think, why did they do that? You know, it's a bit odd.
It's funny because I didn't get bored at all.
No,
actually, which is bizarre. I mean, I didn't find myself looking at my phone once actually, and I watched this all the way through as well. So I watched all four, one after the other. I didn't realise that Michael Wisher did the Dalek voices as well, because obviously he went on to be Davros, didn't he?
Indeed.
So yeah, I didn't realise that at the time. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, so, you touched on the music there. Shall we just quickly mention that? Because that is one of the things that is odd about this. So it was written, the incidental music in it is by Carey Blyton. Carey Blyton. Yeah. Not a name I know. I mean, normally Dudley Simpson used to do the scores. I think he was on board around now, so he would have normally done them. And I love Dudley's music. I really, really like his music over the years in Doctor Who. I think it's fair to say that the music in this one is different and quite odd. And for me personally, I didn't like it. It was a bit. It didn't fit the story for me. It felt very dated. The music to me, but it is one of those I think where people might like it because it's a bit different and a bit odd. But it's all sort of wind instruments and I don't know. It just didn't really fit the story for me.
I didn't know this until I read up on it before we started recording, but it was performed by the London Saxophone Quartet.
Oh, right.
So it's just 4 saxophones doing slightly different pitches and
really
types of noises, but I can see what you mean. It doesn't really fit. For me, this needed a bit more of an ominous, sort of suspenseful soundtrack to me, rather than this sort of quirky. Because you can tell immediately what the guy was briefed to do. He was like, we need some. You know, we want this to be a sci-fi, sort of non-normal sci-fi incidental music. We want something a bit different, a little bit more, not what you would expect. So that's fair enough. But it just didn't really fit, did it? It was a bit too.
It's too jolly for me. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't fit the tone of the story for me. So it just at first I thought maybe it was stock music, and then I thought, no, this is too weird for stock music. So I don't know. It just doesn't feel like it was composed for this story. But it is interesting. I will say that it's different, and I like it for the fact it's different. But I did find it distracting. It's not like the Sea Devils though. It doesn't make your ears bleed every time the music comes on. So it's not different in that way. But yeah, it was a bit tonally not quite right for the story, I didn't think.
Yeah, no, I read you. What did you think in terms of story? What did you think in terms of the Daleks being less threatening because they've had this power drain? So their weapons don't work and their ship doesn't work, and that kind of forces them into this alliance with the humans and the Doctor and so on. Even before the Doctor says, even before he says it, we know that they're not going to honour it.
Yeah.
But it does take away that, because, like you said earlier, the Pertwee's involved, ironically, with I think it's 4 Dalek stories, all in all. Even though he's not a big fan of, or wasn't a big fan of them. And I do like it when they try and do something different with the Daleks, because over the classic years they can be a bit, they can have this sort of godlike power in their stories where they're kind of invincible in a way, and they have this much upgraded firepower over their enemies and so on. So they can feel a little bit godlike in a way, where you think, how on earth will they defeat the Daleks in this story? Because they haven't got the firepower, they haven't got anything. So in this one, I like it that Terry Nation did something slightly different, where pretty much off the bat he renders them quite useless. I mean, this is until they develop their sort of machine gun spud gun sounding.
Spud gun.
They sort of revert back to sort of human.
Dalek spud gun.
Yeah, rifle technology stuff. So I like that. What do you think to that? Because it does change it up very early on in the story.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I really liked it at the start. The only thing is I would have liked to have seen them got their threat back by the second half, because once you take it away, I like you, I thought that's quite interesting. It makes something different and their guns don't work, so they go and do a bit of target practice with a model TARDIS, which awesome, is really weird. But I love that. And then they come back, but I don't think they regain their threat enough, if you know what I mean. So I would have liked to have seen them come back full force in the second half of the story, but they don't really. I mean, there's a bit where they're being attacked, and it's almost comical, where they're just getting battered to having the what kicked out of them. And I'm thinking, God, come on, Daleks, you've got your guns now. You should be, they're a bit feeble in the second half of the episode. I think they should have come back, twice as strong, if anything, which doesn't happen. And also there's a bit where one just has a meltdown because he realizes he's failed, and he just literally it's a bit like the Dalek in Remembrance, isn't he? He just literally just cracks up and dies. He's just like, I failed, and then he just, I think he's supposed to blow up, but he doesn't. He just sort of
he just
switches off, doesn't he? Yeah, which is just like, I don't know. I love, like you said, I love the fact that they're so vulnerable at the start. It does make for an interesting dynamic, but I would have liked to see them come back a bit stronger in the second half, which they don't do. So I felt they were sort of quite weak in the second half. Didn't feel much threat from them at all. I mean, they were getting pushed around that quarry and defeated very easly. So I would have liked to see a bit more from them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's hilarious actually listening to Nick Briggs in the making of segment on the special features, where he comments on that little model TARDIS. Yeah, he said what he finds hilarious is on Dalek spaceships, they've got a cupboard somewhere full of model TARDISes, because the Doctor's such a massive threat to them all the time that when they get angry, they just get these model TARDISes out, line them up, and pop pop pop, makes them feel better.
It's a nice thought, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it's one of those occasions where I wish I was watching it with you.
Oh right, yeah, there was a few scenes like that, isn't there? Yeah.
So that one scene in particular where he loses his captives, and he just has a breakdown, this poor Dalek, doesn't he? He just can't
believe it.
He's like, I failed, must self-destruct. I mean, it's not like, it's not like, Dalek leader, I've lost him, I'll go and find him. It's a case of, well, that's it.
Yeah.
There's no point in it.
He does give up very easily. Yeah.
He's like, I've lost him, and then starts whizzing around in a circle, and he's like, ah. And that's it. And you think, oh, don't be so hard on yourself, mate.
That's right, yeah.
They're probably just round the corner.
I did laugh at that bit. I did. It would have been so funny if they'd just been like, oh, we're only behind this rock. He's like, no, I failed.
Yeah.
No, there was a few comedy moments like that actually in this.
Yeah. And one of the cliffhangers as well. I mean, this was, crikey Moses. Episode 3. Yeah. So the cliffhanger to episode, I mean, this was in a time where some of the cliffhangers in Classic Who were solid gold. Yeah. You cannot beat them. There are some cliffhangers in Classic Who where you think, wowzers, this is awesome. I cannot wait for the next episode. This is brilliant. I love it when they do cliffhangers like this. But this one, it's like, I don't know. It's like, what were they think? It's like, I'm finding the words difficult to come up with just how lame it is. Do you know what I mean?
It's a killer hopscotch maze. Yeah. What more do you want? But it's just the line, and it's like, stop, don't move. And in comes the credits. You're like, what? Hey, what? What just happened?
Yeah. So the set designers, or the designer on this story, decided that a really threatening piece of flooring was a red and white sort of circular mosaic, I suppose, sort of thing on the ground, like these panels. And if there was a bit more context around it, earlier on, then we can maybe understand. Like, you know, when they've crossed this killer bit of kitchen flooring, and Bilal's just like, well, what's the fuss about? And the Doctor gets a coin out, flicks it on, and then we see the electrical current, you know, sort of disintegrating the coin.
Yeah.
If he'd have done that right at the beginning, because, you know, Bilal's about to, you know, just cruise along, and the Doctor's like, stop, don't move. If he'd have tossed the coin on it then, and then we had the electrocution, and then we had the credits kick in, then maybe that would have gone some way towards, you know, telling us what the threat was. But instead of just saying, stop, don't move, and it's all very serious, and the camera just does this quick zoom into the kitchen floor, and then the credits roll, it's like, oh, come on.
It's so funny though, isn't it? I mean, the thing is, it reminds me of that floor in the Five Doctors. You know, the one the Cybermen go across and get obliterated. Reminds me a bit of that. No, but the reason why is because that wasn't meant to be the cliffhanger. It's because the episode was running so short that it was supposed to end when the Daleks are chasing him and outside the city, and they're sort of trapped, and then obviously the next week would have started with the Doctor opening the door and getting away from Daleks. So that was the original cliffhanger, but because the episode's running about 5 minutes short, they're like, oh, what are we going to do? We need to find a new cliffhanger point. And thankfully episode 4 was overrunning in time, so they could take a chunk of that and bung it at the end of episode 3. So that's why we get this bizarre, and it is funny. I mean, I kind of love the fact it's there. Just get this bizarre weak cliffhanger episode 3 of them being terrified of a floor. It's really funny. I do love it when the Daleks go across it though, because the first Dalek he gets a few thousand volts put through him, doesn't he, when he goes across it?
Yeah, that's funny. That needs a meme.
That does need
absolutely,
a meme,
because he just waltzes out, doesn't he, and he gets zapped. And he's got all these volts inside him. And when I first watched this one a while ago, I thought he was going to be a goner. I thought they were going to do the classic Dalek bursting into flames thing.
Yeah.
But it's great because he's just like, well, there we go. That's that. Let's move on. And then the other Dalek comes up and he's like, you're right. And he's like,
he lets him take the lot, doesn't he? He's like, oh, well done, you've disarmed it now. I'll just pop across to the other side with you.
Yeah, and I think something does happen to him. I think he loses his shielding or that.
He does say something, doesn't he? He's like, no, I'm all right, but I've lost my something shielding. Yeah,
and that was another scene I was just absolutely cracking up at, because he just waltzes in, gets zapped, and then the other one comes in like, yeah, everything all right? He's like, well, this has happened, but yeah, I'm all right. Let's just carry on.
Who's the guy watching from the, you know, like we keep getting this shot of Pertwee and Bala, whatever his name is, Bilal, walking through the corridors. There's someone watching him on like a big long widescreen television. He's sort of slumped over a desk. Is that just a dead person? Who was that? I kind of missed that.
Yeah, I think that was just an Exelon that was left over from the original construction of the city.
Oh, right.
Perhaps,
so he's just another. All right.
Yeah, but one thing I did notice though, speaking of that scene where we've got that dead Exelon, just, you know, and there's that screen of the Doctor and Bilal making their way through the city. That was like a forerunner to widescreen. That's like perfect 16:9.
Yes, it is. Yes, yeah,
ratio.
Cracking TV.
It's like, yeah, that it looks really cool, and they've done this really nice blue overlay effect as well.
Yeah.
And I just thought for its time, that was pretty good effect actually, because sometimes even in stories later than this one, when they try and map, you know, the actual TV camera footage onto a computer monitor of some kind, you get these really horrible jagged lines all around the edge and stuff. But this one was done all right.
Because you get a bit of that with the Dalek spaceship, and you get a bit of a green screen or yellow screen or whatever it is.
That was yellow in this case, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's yellow. There's a lot of that fuzziness going on when we're entering spaceships. And there's a bizarre bit. I couldn't work out what they'd done. There's a bizarre bit when the Doctor first gets taken to their camp at the start in episode 1. There's a green screen effect there, but I was trying to work out. It's just a door. I was thinking, what, couldn't they they build a door? They've had to build a model of a door. It seemed a strange thing to green screen, but I'm sure there was a reason for it. I sort of paused it and was trying to work out what it was they were trying to do there, because I couldn't couldn't work it out.
Yeah, they've got this kind of close-up model shot, which is meant to look like in perspective they're in front of the big ship with the door. And what's bizarre... Or is it you about something different here?
No, sorry, there's another bit. It's I know the bit you're on about the space shuttle, but there's a bit where, when they take Pertwee to the camp and they've got that guy lying on the bed who's got the plague and all that. Yeah. But there's a bizarre bit where they sort of walk through his door. Maybe it's just because they had the rock set, but they didn't have, and because they only needed that one shot of them walking into it. Maybe they just thought, well, we'll just use a model for that. We don't need to build it or something. But yeah, I couldn't work out what was going on there because there's a lot of fuzz around there. Especially Pertwee's hair, which does not blend well with a yellow screen effect. I just wonder what was going on there.
No,
sorry.
Yeah, go on, carry on.
No, it's all right. Go on. What are you going to say?
I think you're right there because this is one of the stories where the director insisted that it was filmed set by set rather than chronologically.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right, I think, because it was only that one shot. They didn't want to spend the time and money constructing all that just for that one scene.
It's fair. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, you're right, mate. Yeah.
No, all I was going to say is I bet another scene that cracked you up, because it certainly did me. I bet you were laughing when old Balal, or whatever he's called, goes mad and turns on the doctor. He's like, Balal, put it down. Put that gun down. Put that down. And I was just like, what's going on? Balal's gone mad. What? I'm still not sure what happened to him. Did he get hypnotized?
He did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was one of the tricks of the maze, if you like.
That was so funny. It's just it comes out of nowhere, doesn't it? He suddenly turns the gun on the doctor. Oh.
Yeah, he loses it. Yeah, there's some hysterical moments in this.
Yeah.
Unintentional.
It keeps you always keeps you going, doesn't it?
Another bizarre choice was to use yellow screen as opposed to the blue. Because they were using blue screen at this, even in the early days. They were using blue screen.
Blue screen, green screen was sort of the two. Yeah, yellow screen. It's not.
It's purely because all the sets were this kind of sandy rock colour.
Oh, right.
Which is really similar to, when you go through that part of the colour palette, it's very similar to yellow. It's,
it makes sense.
So it's strange why they decided to use that. And, because blues obviously stands out a lot more and you could pick the colour out a lot easier. They might have got a slightly better result with blue, but strange.
It is strange.
But story-wise, overall, I think it goes through at a decent enough pace. There are a couple... episode 3 is the worst offender, purely because they're just running out of ideas to complete the story. It's like at the end of episode 2, before the Doctor and Bilal go into the city, there was, up to that point, and then when you start with episode 4, that... It could have been a 3-parter quite nicely. They didn't need to have...
No, the maze thing's just a time waster, isn't it, really?
And the reason I say that is because the Doctor and Bilal are going through the city so that they could disable the beacon that's draining the power. But we didn't really need it because the two guys from the human team, the expedition team, they were already going up there to destroy the beacon anyway.
Yeah.
So we didn't really need the Doctor and Bilal doing that stuff.
I felt it did lose its way a bit in terms of the story, because I think it does start off really well, this one. Like the first 2 episodes I thought were pretty cool. Like all the stuff in the TARDIS at the beginning where it's getting drained, and bizarrely the TARDIS door seems to have a starting handle now where you can open it.
The manual,
the manual thing. So I quite liked all that. But yeah, the second half, so the first 2 episodes I think are pretty good. Then second half are perfectly watchable, but the story definitely does start to unravel a little bit and lose its way. It doesn't build up enough tension at all, I don't think, the second half. Especially with the maze stuff. I agree with you. It's just filler. And the Daleks become a bit redundant as well, I feel, in this story. It's like almost they don't need to be there particularly. They don't do a lot, really, apart from get angry with themselves and stuff. But it's good that they are there because it keeps your interest in the story, but they don't do a lot in the second half either. So yeah, it slightly tails off for me, the storyline.
Yeah. No, Regia, it goes through at a decent enough pace as well, the first couple of episodes. Although it's not action-packed all the time, it does go along fairly nicely. And then episode 3 is just a strange addition to the story. It just doesn't... I could understand if it added something to the story. if there was stuff going on that added to it and enhanced the story so that it set you up for a good finale in episode 4, then I could understand all that stuff. But it doesn't really add anything. It's just there because they need something for the Doctor to do. Because
and Sarah doesn't get a lot to do, does she? I was thinking that would have been, perhaps would have been quite nice if they'd given her a bit more to do in this story, because she does manage to swap the sacks of whatever it is for sand or whatever she does, so she gets to do all that. But I don't know, there does seem to be a lot of faffing around in between, I think.
It's a bit weird. Not weird as in it's just these weird story decisions that sort of translate poorly, unfortunately, into the final product. It's one of those things where round the table, when they're going through the script and all that stuff, it would have been nice for somebody to pipe up and say, are we sure about episode 3?
I think Terrence Dicks was just pleased to get the script, I think, because is it on the making of or whatever, they said, him and Terry Nation got on very well, but Terrence Dicks knew how slow he was at getting scripts finished. And I wish I could remember the line now, but Terrence said something like, I expect the last two parts of the script to be on my desk by Monday, Terrence. Terry. And if they're not, I expect one of your I expect an original excuse or something. I don't know. He came out of one of his typical Terrence Dicks lines.
Right.
So he's probably just pleased to get a script finished, I think.
True.
From the sound of it. I'll tell you what does save the last 2 parts for me, though. There is something that does save it in terms of something I really like, which is Bilal or whatever you're saying his name.
Bilal, yeah.
I really like him. Who's the actor? Arnold Yarrow played him. I love his performance. He's really endearing, and I love the way that Pertwee's Doctor looks after him and has to guide him through. So even though the maze bit's quite pointless, for me, it's saved by Bilal, because I love the character.
I'm so glad you said that.
Oh, right. I wasn't sure what you'd think of him.
Yeah, because the moment he's on screen, initially you think, oh dear, Sarah Jane's going to get, you think it's just one of these sort of half-breed mutant versions of the Exelons that are, going to destroy everything. But then as soon as he opens his mouth and tries to sort of assure her that, he's not a threat and stuff, you just want to take him home.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, there's something about him, isn't there? He's just really endearing.
Yeah, you just want to scoop him up, take him home, and say, "This is Bilal. You're a lovely fella."
What actually happens to him? Was he?
Well, nothing really happens, does he? Because the story ends with the Doctor and the humans and Bilal just out in the sand dunes, and they've
watching the building melt.
Yeah, so the Dalek ship's just exploded, and now the city's melting away. And
what did you think of that? Sorry, what did you think of that sound effect of this? When the city melts, it's all these sort of voices and screams, because it's supposed to be like a living thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I thought it was really odd, quite eerie, actually.
Yeah, I think it was a bit creepy, but I think it was all right. I wish that they were, because they've kind of muted it as well. So I was half wishing if they were going to do it, then do it properly. Have it really horrific.
Right.
Like sounds almost like sort of people dying up there, because it is an intelligent thing, the city, And there was also the Exelon sort of slave people that were trapped in there as well, wasn't there?
That's true.
The city had produced. So yeah, it was weird, but you don't really see what happens after that point, because the Doctor ends it on a one-liner, as some of the Pertwee stories do, and that's it. That's how the story ends. But you don't really know what happens to Bilal.
No, I was hoping we'd get to see the Doctor go back in the TARDIS and switch all the lights on and go off or something. But it's a bit of a strange ending, actually, a bit of an unfulfilling ending. I thought it's kind of felt like we needed a bit more of a wrap up, if you like.
Yeah, in my head, I have this image or this scene in my head where the Doctor and Sarah Jane are saying their goodbyes, and Bilal's like, "Oh, do you need someone to? Do you need someone to come along and, I'll make the tea if you like, and
He would have been a great little companion.
He would,
wouldn't
he? Yeah.
Mind you, having said that, Sarah Jane knocked someone out in the TARDIS at one point. What happened to him? Is he still wandering around in the dark?
That's true. That was just one of the normal Exelons, wasn't it? That made his way inside and
get some good old battery.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're using the wind-up handle to start Bessie. They've sort of shoved it into this hole in the wall.
Yeah,
and that's how you manually shut the doors. But it's quite an effective weapon as well. Because the sound effect's great as well from the actor inside, because she's like pretending to smash him over the head, and he's just like, ugh. Ooh. And falls down. So
yeah.
But actually, do you know what? We've got smiles on our faces as we're talking about these things, and that's what I mean by it's an odd one, because it's not a bad watch. It's actually a fairly decent, enjoyable watch, because there are plenty of scenes like that throughout all of the 4 parts where you just got a bit of a smile on your face and you just think, whatever reason you're smiling for, whether it's because it's genuinely a great scene and a great moment, or it's an unintentional funny, classic Who moment, whatever. But there's plenty of them throughout all 4 episodes, because it's either the cool effects that they tried to do. You could see what they were trying to do, like with the big root monster thing.
Yeah,
in the quarry pond. That's quite funny.
I'm sure I've seen that in something else. I'm sure. I kept thinking, I'm sure I've seen that in another story. That thing. It's really bugging me. I thought it was Blake 7 at one point, but I've definitely seen that thing. Probably slightly altered, but
it's like a universal space creature that's used throughout sci-fi in general.
Maybe I'm thinking of Red Dwarf. Maybe it reminds me of, I don't know. I've seen it somewhere else. I'm sure I have. Yeah, I'm sure that robot starred in other things.
It's actually got its own copyright and can be used in whatever. It reminds me of the little creature thing in Star Wars, like a larger version. When they're trapped in the trash compactor and the little thing pops out the water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about some cast members. So there's actually quite a large cast, but you don't see a lot of them, because we have a lot of people buried underneath the Exelon costumes and makeup and stuff. Both the normal Exelons and the subterranean Exelons, where Bilal is, his posse, his crew. And one of the Exelons did look slightly different. The High Priest Exelon, he's in red, isn't he? He's got this red colour. The one where he's...
Well, is this the ones that are trying to sacrifice Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you got that dude, he's all in red and stuff, which is a nice decision. What did you think to the recording of because they recorded all of those chants, didn't they, separately, and played them with this big echo effect and so on? And
I liked it, actually.
Yeah.
Very 70s Who. I quite liked that, yeah. It sort of helped, because their costumes are a bit basic, aren't they? So it sort of helped sell the whole... I mean, that sacrifice goes on for a hell of a long time. Over 2 episodes, actually. She's still getting there, like, you're going to be sacrificed any minute now.
Yes.
Any minute now you're going to be sacrificed. Just any minute now. And it's just like, wow. They're really taking their time on this one.
Yeah, because it's weird, isn't it? Because they try to knock you out first, I think. They're like hovering this concoction under her nose, and the steam.
That's right, yeah.
It does go on for a bit, but yeah, I found the chants hilarious, because as it goes on after 30 seconds or so, you can tell that one of the male singers in the group who are doing the chants just gets bored and starts going for it, and there's like this big operatic moment, and he's like, oh, he's going mad, and I thought, he's got bored.
About that. Yeah, he's really gone for it, isn't he?
So we have those guys, they're under costume, but they all look very good, though. They've played them in like a savage tribe kind of way, and they look pretty good. And then we have the Daleks. Obviously, we don't see the actors inside them, but I thought they were apart from the Dalek having a breakdown towards the end. I thought they were played relatively standard, as you would expect Daleks to be played.
Yeah,
there was nothing out of the ordinary in their performances, I would say.
No, at least the voices sounded good. Because what's the other one? Is it Day of the Daleks, where they haven't got the right modulation on the voice? They sound a bit too human. So at least they sound like Daleks in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we do have the standard, go and do this, I will obey, and then some other stuff. It's all fairly Dalek, as you would expect.
Isn't there a bit where the Daleks like, we are the rulers of it, and then one of the other tribemen or whatever, might be Galloway or someone, just says, shut up. I was thinking, how dare you talk to that Dalek like that? He should have been exterminated on the spot. That's what I mean about him not being savage enough. There's a time when that Dalek would not have stood for that.
Yeah, he would have shot him immediately. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, just the human team, the expedition guys who are there to mine the Perineum. Yes, Perineum. Mixed performances for me from those guys.
Yeah.
I thought that Galloway was very good.
So did I, actually. Funny enough, I didn't know if you'd like him, but I thought he was the standout one for being good, yeah.
Yeah, Duncan Lamont. I thought he was... I just thought he was a good... You almost... It's one of those great moments in TV where he's kind of a bad guy because he ignores the commander's last command, doesn't he?
Oh, that's harsh, that, isn't he? He's sort of like, I pretends he can't hear him, doesn't he? He says, I'm sorry, I didn't hear that, I'm afraid, when he clearly did.
That's right.
Basically telling him to stand down. And yeah, because
he wants to put Hamilton in charge.
Yeah,
and
that's a good moment, that.
Yeah, so you think, this is a bit of a bad egg amongst the team, and then he's quite ruthless with because the other members of the team are like, well, we shouldn't really be sacrificing all of the Exelons. This doesn't feel right. And Galloway's like, well, no, we've come here on a mission to save, our own people. Let's stick to it, and if these people get killed in the process, then that's just part of it. There's nothing we can do about it. And the others are a bit against that. Yeah. But he does. He comes good at the end, doesn't he? Because he sacrifices himself.
That's right.
He stays behind on the Dalek ship and triggers the bomb.
Yeah.
That blows it up. So I thought I thought he was a good character anyway. But when you see that point at the end, you think, that's great. That's one of those moments in TV where they've led you to believe he's a baddie. Not a baddie, but he's ruthless and he's not likable almost throughout the story. But then at the end, it's like, there you go.
The Doctor says he did his duty, didn't he?
He does.
He did his duty. Yeah. He was definitely the better one of the crew because he had a bit more sort of meat on the bones in terms of character, didn't he?
Yeah.
And he acted quite well as well. You know what I mean? He was you could tell he was giving a serious performance, taking it seriously, and So for me, he stood out as being one of the better ones. Yeah.
No, I agree. A good performance. And then we had the two. So we have the commander guy. He's just knocked out for the majority of it.
That's right. Yeah. Got the leg.
Commander Stewart. With the leg. And then one performance that I wasn't sold on is Jill, played by Joy Harrison.
Jill Tarrant, yeah.
Weak. I just thought that she was, just weak. I think she does try, definitely. There's a few scenes where it calls for her to be quite upset and emotional and stuff, but I found that she was just going through. I don't know if that's a director's fault or her or a combination, I'm not sure, but she just didn't shout out to me as like she was really putting herself into it. She was like, it was like, well, this is how I've been taught to do sad, so I'm going to do sad now, and this is how I was told, this is how you react to emotions, so I'm just going to do that now. If that makes sense. It was a bit like paint by numbers.
Yeah, because there's a bit on that on the Raw studio footage, isn't there, where the director's like, right, Dalek's firing now, so look scared. It's the cliffhanger to episode 1, isn't it?
That's right.
And she has to turn and look scared, turn her head into the Doctor's shoulder and look terrified. And he's like, well, can we do it again, but a bit more fear? And she sort of does it again, exactly the same. I'm thinking that's not what the director was trying to get more out of her, I think.
Yeah.
And that kind of, for me, and I think sounds like what you're saying as well, sort of sums it up. She's not really giving 110%. She's more giving sort of 80%. I've turned up to get paid and go home, sort of thing. And I didn't feel much for her. She's not terrible. We've seen a lot worse in Doctor Who. But yeah, just going through the motions a bit, and she didn't really add much to the story either. So
yeah, and I don't think she was terrible, like you say. I think she was okay, but yeah, she just didn't. It didn't feel like she was pushing herself. Maybe because she wasn't. I'm not sure, but just didn't sell it for me, that one.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, I thought that Peter Hamilton, played by Julian Fox, I think he was really good. I'd like to have seen a little bit more from him.
Yeah, I felt there was more in that character as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because he had some great interactions with Galloway. The two of them were at loggerheads about, the decision to because at various points throughout most of the story, they're under the impression that the Daleks are going to let them go. But
that's right.
So, and then this sort of master plan, if you like, to for the Daleks, they've said, we'll take the perineum, but we'll give it to or auction it to various species throughout the galaxy that need it, and so on. And they think, this is not great, but so Hamilton's like, this is not right, because as a result of doing all this, they need that, they know that the Daleks are going to send this plague missile down to Exelon once they leave the planet, which they know that's going to happen. So Hamilton's very much like, this is not right, we shouldn't be doing it. So there's some great interactions with Galloway, because like we said, Galloway is very much like, well, this is a byproduct of our success. We need, it needs to happen. So that was all good, but I just wish I'd have seen a bit more of that in the story. Maybe episode 3 would have been a good time to to see more of him. So yeah. Hamilton, thought he was good.
Yeah.
And then we had we've spoken about Bilal. He was such a great little character.
He's a little highlight in the story for me. I really like him.
Yeah. Because they wrote him with such a big heart. Because when he bumps into Sarah Jane, that's one thing, to bump into somebody, in your sort of domain, and be completely like, no, it's fine, I'm not a threat, please don't.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's it.
Yeah, and please don't. It's all good. And then when the Doctor shows up, without even hesitating, he's like, oh, come on in, I'll help you. In a roundabout sort of way, he's saying, it's for the greater good, so I'll help you in the city and stuff. And then there's this lovely little bit when they've come out of the city, they've done what they need to do, and they meet back up with Sarah Jane and stuff. And Sarah Jane, they like reach out and they sort of hold hands for a few seconds, and she like makes sure he's okay. And they're just lovely moments there. They wrote that character with such a big heart, because at the end of the day, they could be really, really miffed off because they've decided that they're not going to worship this big city that they've created and this intelligence. They're forced underground, aren't they? So they could have a massive chip on their shoulder, and and anything to do with the outside world on the top, they could be really, really miffed off that they forced underground to live that way. So but they're not. They're like the opposite. They're like really. It's like going to a hotel. It's the difference between, this is my analogy, this is really weird, but the Exelons that are living on the surface of the planet that worship this city and so on, they're the equivalent of when you check into a hotel and the person behind the desk is, welcome, your room's over there. Yeah. We'll see you when you check out, bye. Versus, Bilal, who's like, welcome, it's so amazing that you're here, we can't wait, let me take your bags for you, this is going to be an amazing trip. It's almost like that, between the two of them. So I love it that he was wrote that way, because he could have quite easily fallen into just playing him completely the opposite and being a right little bugger, and
he could have just been another background character.
Yeah. So great character. And then some of the other people, it's just lost under makeup and so on, but mostly decent performances from the supporting cast, regardless if you were a monster or just a few little niggles.
Yeah.
Okay, Sarah Jane then, Liz Sladen.
She's nice. She's a nice. It's a nice performance.
Right.
It's not one of her standout stories. I need to check. I'm sure this is very early on for her, though.
I think it's her third or fourth, doesn't she turn up? What's her first story? Is it the Time Warrior?
Yeah.
Is it the one where, how far back
so
is that?
So this is her third story, isn't it?
Third, then, yeah.
Yeah, Time Warrior, because the story before this is Invasion of the Dinosaurs. Okay, so yeah, so it's her third story. Because I always find, I don't know about you, but I always find the dynamic between Sarah Jane and Pertwee's Doctor very different to her dynamic with the Fourth Doctor. I feel like her character changes a little bit when we get to the Fourth Doctor stories, and for the better, actually. She's more confident, she's more ballsy when she's with the Fourth Doctor.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Third Doctor, I'm not saying she takes a back seat, because she still sort of stands her ground and stuff, but I don't know, there's just a different dynamic there, I think. And as I said, obviously because, she's quite new to the cast in this story as well, but still a good performance. I still really, she's still absolutely Sarah Jane, the character in this. And she's still, like swapping the sacks of whatever it is, perineum, keep forgetting the name of it and all. Yeah. So she gets a few bits to do, but yeah, it's not a standout story for her, but it's still a nice performance from Liz Sladen, I think.
Yeah, my thoughts as well on that one. I think you're absolutely right with the Fourth Doctor. Her character definitely evolves quite quickly into a more confident, not like a Clara character where she's saving the day all the time, but she definitely has much more of a contribution into saving the day with the Doctor. Whereas in these stories with Pertwee, she's definitely more of a follower and sort of does as she's told, and there's not
more
much
subdued.
Yeah. Which is not a terrible thing. I think, some of her stories with Pertwee some of them are fantastic, and they do work well together, because she almost looks up to him as a bit like Katie Manning's companion with Pertwee. They kind of look up to him as a bit of a father figure almost, because the way he is with them. Whereas where she's with Tom's Doctor, they're a bit more of a edging towards that sort of arguing couple. And not that they would ever be a couple. I'm not insinuating that at all. But
no, but I know what you mean.
More that sort of sniping at each other sometimes. And if you want a good example of that, the opening scenes in The Brain of Morbius.
Yes, yeah.
Where the Doctor's got the right hump because he thinks the Time Lords have grounded him, and she's not having it. He wants to sit on the rock and sulk, and she's telling him to buzz off and all that, and she's going to go off and do her own thing. So a much more different character than what we see here with Pertwee, but still not bad, but just a bit more simple in her approach as a character.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And the man himself then.
Pertwee.
I'm going to go with something you said very early on, in that is he does look a bit bored in this.
Yeah, I do like him in it. I do think he's still giving a great performance. In fact, if anything, I quite like the fact he's a bit more subdued, if you like. But I don't get the feeling that he was loving the story. I don't get the feeling that he's really throwing himself into it, if you like. But it's not, don't mean in any sense that he's going through the motions, though, because he's still giving a great performance. And so I still think he's really good in it. But yeah, it just, to me, it doesn't seem, a bit like Sarah Jane. I wouldn't say it's a standout Pertwee story for him as the Doctor. There's no sort of little magical moments particularly that I can think of, apart from there's some nice scenes with Bilal and that, and the bit at the beginning in the TARDIS perhaps with Sarah Jane's quite nice as well. But yeah, I don't know, he just seemed a little bit subdued in it to me, but still a nice performance from him.
Agreed. Yes. There are some good moments. We do see a bit of the old Aikido.
Yes, we do. Yeah, that's true.
Or the karate. Yeah, we do see a couple of scenes with that where he where he flings out a couple of slaps, which is good. And there's a couple of nice scenes with Sarah Jane, actually, where he kind of says to her, if I don't come back,
go and
do this. And she looks a bit upset. And, we have that, again, that sort of father figure comforting, everything's going to be all right sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think whether it has anything to do with his feelings about the Daleks, I'm not sure, because he's sort of well known, isn't he, for on more than one occasion saying I don't rate the Daleks as Doctor Who monsters. I think they're
That's
just
right.
Yeah. So whether that has anything to do with it, maybe that affected his mindset. Like, here we go, another bloody Dalek story. I'm not a fan of these guys, and I'm not sure. That's why I said earlier it's ironic he ended up with 4 Dalek stories to have to get through. But maybe it's something to do with that. I'm not sure. But it's not terrible. He's still, the great third Doctor that we know as Pertwee. But there's just, if you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh yeah, let's talk about Pertwee, what some of his best stories for you and stuff, you absolutely wouldn't pick this one out, as a Pertwee performance.
That's true. I mean, it's getting near the end of his run as well. I don't know where it came in terms of production, but yeah, he's only got 2 stories after this. So Monster of Peladon was next, and then Planet of Spiders, and of course
Spiders.
That's where he regenerates. So it might also have something to do with the fact he was, coming to the end of his era.
True.
And maybe he's just not tired, but maybe he's just sort of wrapping things up and just a little bit more subdued, I think. But
yeah, that's probably it. Coming to the end of his time, because Tom was a bit like that as well.
Oh, Tom's very broody in his last series, isn't he?
Yeah. He can tell absolutely that. I mean,
I quite like it again, though. It just gives another side to the performance. But yeah,
it's weird because you never know if that's the cause of it. Because it's actually Planet of the Spiders. Pertwee's not that subdued, I would say. Maybe he was glad that it wasn't.
Good one
a dark. Because I love Planet of the Spiders. Maybe it's a good thing. I mean, maybe it's a good thing that he didn't end on a Dalek story for him, because it could have been even worse, I suppose. But
I don't think he would have liked that at all. Yeah. Have we reviewed Planet of Spiders? No, all right, okay.
Yeah,
you did it on your own. You did it on your own way back in episode 5.
Crikey.
Golly, we'll have to do that together at some point because, it's an interesting story in many ways. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a split second there where I thought, should I say that I love it? Have we reviewed it yet? But I remember me doing it. So, we'll revisit that one, mate. But you never know, do you? Because with Tom, I mean, what I mean is you never know with the actor whether it's a case of they're going because they genuinely want to go, or they're going because of some behind the scenes thing that's maybe pushed them in that direction that they're now leaving. So they're maybe subdued because they don't really want to go, or they're sad to be leaving, or whatever it is. But you definitely get that feeling with Pertwee in the last half dozen stories that he's sometimes looking sort of borderline bored with it, and other times looking like he's having so much fun. So good performance, just not stand out like you say.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah.
Rightio. Anything you want to mention before we get on to our scores?
Just one thing, which you mentioned on Twitter, I think, and I was like, yes, I 100% agree with you. Is this era this series of Pertwee stories feature the best opening intro.
Oh, the intro.
In my opinion,
yeah.
It's just every time it started. I think it's my favourite Doctor Who intro.
Right.
Is this one because it starts with the sort of round star pattern, and then it goes into the sort of tunnel effect, which later went on to become the 4th Doctor intro, but just sort of tacked, and it's glorious. I just every time I went to start an episode, I was making sure, because I don't always watch the beginning. You know what I mean? I'll sort of press play and the music will be playing. I'll be looking at my phone. Oh, right, the episode started. Phone down. Mm-hmm. With this one, every time I was pressing play and watching, I love the twirly start of the intro on this one. I think it's possibly my favourite, actually.
Yeah, it's one of my favourites just for that reason, because it starts with that really cool star field in like the circular pattern, and then that morphs into the time vortex, I suppose it is.
Yeah, and then there's Pertwee's silhouette is part of that. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a great version of the theme as well, this one. It's got that real classic. So it's moved on a bit, obviously, from the earlier Doctors, but it's still got that real cool classicness about it.
Yeah, it's a great theme, actually. It's weird because it's slightly tweaked, but it's still got that. It still sounds very close to the original. Everything works for me in that intro. I love it. Yeah.
Agreed.
Scores. Will we agree on scores, though? Yeah,
it's your turn to go first.
It is, isn't it? I found this difficult to score because, as I said, I didn't I really enjoyed it, but I didn't think I thought it was a bit of a lazy script. So I'm going to go sort of for a standard 7. But I thought it was very enjoyable to watch.
Okay.
But
cool.
just thought it was a bit of a lazy script in many ways from Terry Nation. So yeah, a 7 for me.
7. Okay. I'm going to go for a 6.5.
Oh, right. Oh, I thought you'd be higher.
Yeah. Because I thought that overall it was a fairly decent story. And the performances were really good. I just found that episode 3 pulls the score down a lot for me.
That's fair enough. Yeah.
Episode 3 just adds nothing to the story, really. And originally I was going to score this a 6, but that 0.5's in there for Bilal. Need to bump up a little bit for him. So 6.5 for me.
That's fair enough, mate. It's definitely not an 8. I couldn't even go to 7.5. I think 6.57 is about right.
Yeah. What did our lovely listeners think? Let's kick off with an audio clip. This is first time audio sender inner.
Oh.
This is James Coleman.
Hi Gary and Adam. I'm James Coleman, and this is my first review of anything, which is Death to the Daleks. I think this is a very average episode with a slow start, but I think the story picks up when the Doctor and Sarah meet Bilal. I think the Doctor's performance is good, but Sarah Jane isn't really used to her full potential. The supporting cast lacked in interesting characteristics and personalities and were only there to explain about the Exelons and their home planet. The Exelons, I think, were a boring monster apart from Bilal, who was the most interesting and developed character in the episode. I think the Daleks were not a really good threat and ironically weren't a major part of the story. I think the music which played when the Daleks were around was a bit silly and didn't really fit in the spirit of the rest of the story. And what was that cliffhanger at the end of episode 3? Attack of the Killer Ornamental Flooring? Anyway, I give this episode a 6.75 out of 10. I hope this is a good first review, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
Cool.
Excellent review. Thank you very much.
Nice one, James. That was awesome. And thank you very much for sending in your audio review as well. Hopefully this will be the start of many more for you.
Yes.
Over on Twitter, Adam the Whovian says, that's the one with the great cliffhanger at the end of part 3. And he sticks a winky face on there, you cheeky one, Adam.
He loves that cliffhanger.
Yeah. Isaac Dakins says, it's not as bad as the Dragonfire episode 1 cliffhanger.
Yeah, well, that's true.
On par there, perhaps. And Adam says, however, Death to the Daleks, the part 1 cliffhanger, may or may not have featured swearing. I didn't hear the guy say, you can't, in other words.
Adam.
So, Adam, he was cheeky on Twitter last night.
He was. Perhaps he'd had a Campari.
Yeah. Yeah. And then further on Twitter, Darren, Twitter name Cult Dissection, says, great stuff. He loves this story. And I think he put some musical thing on there. I think he was doing the chants from the monks, I think, or the Doctor Who theme, one of the two.
Yeah.
Theta Sigma podcast says, a great concept poorly realised. Pertwee struggles here, which is no surprise given his well-known contempt for the Daleks. Yes. Let's have a look. So Gallifrey Forever 97 says, although this is one of the weaker Dalek stories, I do strongly have a soft spot for it. Loved the Dalek design and the addition of the gun.
Yes, I'd agree with that.
One thing I forgot to mention when we were going through it is just how hilarious the sound effect was, and the effect when the Daleks are trying to fire their lasers, and we just have these little things
they're weird, aren't they?
Petals, like black petals almost, sort of like... You'd have think after a split second they would have realised that it's not working, but they continue to do it for what feels like 5 minutes.
Yeah,
of them just
And also, I meant to say this in the review that the actors don't even move or attempt to run away. They just stand there and think, "Oh no, we're going to get shot." The direction definitely needed a bit of tightening up, I think, in places.
Yeah, true. Last couple on Twitter. So TARDIS Elliot says, my favourite Pertwee story with Spearhead from Space.
No, right.
I love everything about it, even the naff music.
Really?
And lastly on Twitter, the Z4Z, or the Z4Z, depending on where you're from, just says simply, attack of the killer ornamental flooring.
Yeah, watch out for that flooring.
Which seems to be a running theme. Let's do our second audio clip, audio review. This is Sammy Satine.
G'day, Gary and Adam. Sammy Satine here. Honestly, I didn't swear last time, but anyway. Ruffles! Sarah Jane! Yay! I love the fact that the building has all these logic puzzles you have to solve. Nice to hear future Davros Michael Wisher voicing the Daleks. Love John Pertwee's outfit. I love John Pertwee. I can see why Peter Capaldi has done as many references as he can to him. Shame they never got to the beach. 8 out of 10. See ya!
Thank you, Sammy.
I'd like to think they went there afterwards.
Yes, hopefully they did get there, because the Doctor does whistle a lovely little tune, doesn't he? At the beginning when he's getting the beach umbrella ready and stuff.
That's right.
You love to think that he got there. Can imagine a Doctor there with his shirt off, kicking back. He's got a sambuca.
Yeah.
Just ready to go.
I can actually see that.
Yeah. With his big chain on, the big 70s style chain. Yeah. With his Wurzel head on. Right. Over on Facebook, Kevin Mullen says, the very first VHS of Doctor Who I ever bought. $9.99 from Our Price.
Our Price, God, who remembers them?
Crikey, Kevin, you're bringing up
showing your age.
Some old nostalgia there. Our Price. For people who are not in the UK, Our Price was a record and cassette tape shop that was really cool back in the day, because they used to sell posters and other cool stuff as well. But he said, happy days indeed. Anyway, it's Terry Nation by numbers. TARDIS, faulty or inaccessible, check. Deadly Plague, check. Characters called Tarrant, check. Breakdown, stroke, split in society, check. Yeah, so I can see what he means. Yeah, I think you mentioned that earlier, didn't you?
It's true. Yeah, he does. Terry Nation does that a lot.
All the tropes. Yeah. He says a fun, if somewhat predictable, Dalek adventure that features some fine quarries, a ridiculous spaceship, a pimped up Dalek, quite possibly the worst music ever. Episodes 1 and 2 are all exposition, while episodes 3 and 4 feel like a particularly poor episode of The Crystal Maze. He says, saying that, it breezes along and is imminently watchable. By no means a classic, so he gives it a 6.5.
Fair enough, yeah.
One thing that I'd like to mention, actually, again, I forgot to mention it. We touched on it very briefly, but the outside location, the quarry, I think they chose a belter of a location for that, because, and they showed more of it in the behind the scenes as well, but it does look very alien-esque landscape, that one.
Yeah, that's true. I think it was Dorset, I think.
Yeah.
Not sure, but yeah, it does look good.
Really good, yeah. Zach Jenkins says, this story is good, but seems a bit clunky in places. The Doctor and Sarah are great as usual, 8 out of 10.
Okay. Cheers, Zach.
Stan Gallagher says, love this episode. Pertwee's acting in this drew me to his Doctor. He is my third best.
Third best.
And lastly on Facebook, Joseph Howarth, you wrote quite a long review, buddy, so I'm just going to read a little bit out. He says, when I first watched it, I didn't think too highly of Death to the Daleks. Nowadays, it's a good story from the third Doctor's era. While the plot is very simple in execution, it kind of drags in a couple of parts. It doesn't detract from the story, and that's all we really need for this kind of plot anyway. It goes on to say, how is a primitive race like the Exilons able to defeat an advanced race like the Daleks with just plain old sticks and booby traps? Well,
that's a good point.
It didn't stop the Ewoks in episode 3, did it?
Plain old sticks.
Yeah, the Ewoks defeated the Empire with logs and rocks and all that, so...
That's true.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, no, he goes on to mention that. Oh, that's creepy. I hadn't even read the rest of his review. He said that's almost as implausible as the Ewoks getting rid of stormtroopers with twigs and rocks in the Battle of Endor. That's really creepy.
Oh, wow.
But yes, he goes on to say, much like the Centauran experiment, most of the supporting cast, with the exception of Galloway and Bilal, are really uninteresting and flat. He said, I could hardly remember half of them and what they were, and they were interchangeable. I really wish that Bilal was a companion.
Yeah, it would have been cool.
And he goes on to say, John Pertwee and Liz Sladen were excellent as ever, and overall this story was an easy watch. I wouldn't call anything special, but it's definitely something I can enjoy at the very least. So we give this one a 7 out of 10.
Cool.
And let's do our last audio clip. This is Owen Daly.
Hello, Gary and Adam. Hope you're both well and enjoying the show this week. So, Stop, Don't Move, Death to the Daleks. A great, underrated Dalek story, in my opinion. Some people might think Terry Nation was running out of ideas at this point, and yes, it does follow his kind of formula, but I think this one's great with the new original concept of the Daleks not being able to use their weapons on the planet. It's really great, and it adds the brilliant cliffhanger of part 1 with the Daleks looking to open fire on the third Doctor. As I was watching it, I did not know how the Doctor would get out of that cliffhanger, and of course the resolution is they can't use their weapons, which is a great idea. This story has another great cliffhanger with Stop, Don't Move. It seems like they just cut the episode off there for time, but I really like the Stop, Don't Move cliffhanger. It is quite funny. The Exelons in this story I really liked, especially Bilal, and I think they were a great addition to the story. John Pertwee, fantastic, can't fault him. I know he doesn't like the Daleks, but I think he really gave a great performance in the story. So overall, I really did enjoy Death to the Daleks. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of the show.
Cheers, Owen. He likes that cliffhanger. Stop, Don't Move.
An 8 out of 10. That's pretty good. Did you have anything through on the Geek's handbag?
Oh, yes. Yeah, I had a couple. So Leslie Sheargold said, excellent first 15 minutes with Third and Sarah in a long TARDIS scene, and an eerie-looking Exelon starts unravelling. Main annoyances for him is the Dalek-powered cap guns, the soundtrack thinking it's a sitcom, and all spoken line needs some sort of musical punchline. He gives it a 4 out of 10. Charlie Turner says, out of all the Dalek stories there have been so far, I consider this to be the weakest. I mean, the Daleks get defeated by sticks. Seriously, he says. He says it's all right in some areas, but as a whole, it's poor. He gives it a 4 out of 10.
4.
Dear, not a fan of Charlie. Ryan McGivern, hope I'm saying that right. Very underrated story, he says, with a unique soundtrack. He actually likes it. He puts in brackets. What's odd is that the Daleks don't really add much to the story, though. It's strangely funny at how self-destructive for very strange reasons. Yeah, it is a bit. Lee Burley says, says it would have been great if the story of the Exelons had not included the Dalek main story. That may seem a bit daft. There is a big spin-off Big Finish CD spin-off there, he says.
Indeed.
I suppose he's saying the Daleks are a bit, not needed in the story. I get it. Ryan Hall says he loves this one. He thinks it's because he watched it to death on video as a kid. I'm not sure if it's a little in-joke there.
Pun intended.
Peter McCleary says, not the best Dalek story, but the Daleks look fantastic in that livery. Oh, there we go. Livery.
Okay.
Yeah. Ash White simply says it's his favourite Third Doctor story. Alex Patterson, Death to the Daleks is a classic story that stands the test of time. Harkens back to the Hartnell era of the exploration of the planet, the brain testing mazes, and the return of the Daleks. He thinks the writing is innovative and likes the fact the Daleks are weaponless. He says, I forgot about this. I still think the story wins due to the unique plot and set location, production, plus that boulder scene. Fantastic. Indiana Jones, anyone? I'd forgotten about the boulder scene.
Yeah.
With the Doctor setting that off. Mark Daniel Mooney, it's not a top draw Dalek adventure. He says it's no Genesis, but it's perfectly watchable. Agreed. And finally, our competition winner, Elliot Beasley, says Death to Daleks is by no means a classic, and it's probably one of the worst Pertwee Dalek stories, although this is not to say that it isn't decent. He really quite likes it. He's left quite a long review, so I'll just skip through this a little bit. But he basically says maybe the story would have worked better without the Daleks and a different enemy instead, but he still gives it a 7 out of 10.
Oh.
So, yeah, I think he probably a bit like us, sort of thinks it's not the best, but finds it very enjoyable to watch. Strange when you get one like that, isn't it? It's like, people, it's a real contradiction. It's like, what do you mean? It's not the best, but you enjoy watching it. Yeah, I think if you watch this story, you'll understand what we're getting at. It's like, it's just a fun watch. Yeah,
it is a fun watch, and it's a bit like The Curse of Peladon, where some of the story stuff is a bit ridiculous. Yeah. And it's not the greatest, Doctor Who story, but it's a really fun watch. Yeah. You kind of gripped, well, not gripped, but you can watch it very nicely from start to finish.
I think you said it earlier. It just breezes along. I genuinely never got bored at any point in this story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there we go. I think the average score is about a 7.
Sounds like
this
it.
one,
Yeah.
roughly, approximately speaking. So there we go. Thank you very much for sending in your clips and your thoughts and stuff like that. Next week, it's modern Doctor Who. What have we got on?
Well, we're going from the Daleks to... Shit. Oh, sorry. Hang on, I'll do that again.
Oh, man.
I thought I'd knocked my mic out then.
That was brilliant.
Right.
Your Skype just froze for a second as well at the same time.
Did it?
So it all looked like hell was breaking loose at your voice.
Perfectly timed. Right, I'll go from... What have we got next week, buddy?
Yeah.
Right, so we're going from the Daleks to the Cybermen next week in... Oh, good lordy. I've been putting this one off for a while. So next week we'll be reviewing Nightmare in Silver, the 11th Doctor story.
Do you know what? It might be one of those situations that we've had a few times on this show where we've not been fans of it, and then we rewatch it for the review, and then all of a sudden it gets good.
We can only hope.
Or betterer.
Better, yeah. We shall see. But anyway, yeah, Nightmare in Silver next week. So Gary will put the post up. Let us know your thoughts on that one.
Indeedy. And I think we're going to do there for 153.
Right.
Thank you. For sticking with us and listening to episode 153. It is 153, isn't it?
It is.
It is, yeah. Just making sure.
Yeah.
You know what we're like. Yes, thank you very much to James, Sammy and Owen for sending in your audio clips. Very much appreciated. And your thoughts. It's really cool listening to our listeners' reviews, because it does prompt those little things in your minds that you might have forgotten that you want to mention. Yeah, so that's really cool. And thank you so much, guys, for posting on Twitter and Facebook. Again, the same thing. When we read through those, it's like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that when we come to do our stuff. So thank you very much. It's very, very much appreciated. So head over to the website, www.bigblueboxpodcast.co.uk. You can listen to all of our shows on there, and you can link off to the social stuff. If you want to give us a like or a follow, whatever it is on that channel, that would be amazing. And there's also links there to go off and subscribe to the show on things like iTunes and stuff. And if you're an iTunes listener, if you could pop a review and a rating on, that would be amazing, because that really helps us a lot. Make sure you check out Adam's channel.
Oh, yes.
The Geek's Handbag.
Got lots of new vids on the way.
The recent one, the Blu-ray series Part 2 unboxing, is particularly good. Some good thoughts from Adam on that stuff. Yeah, so check out Adam's channel. Just do a search on YouTube, The Geek's Handbag, and give him a subscribe. There are so many cool videos. You've got quite the library over there now, mate.
I know, it's really starting to add up, isn't it? It's quite good.
It's very, very good. So make sure you give Adam a sub. He's also on Twitter and Facebook and all that jazz. Yeah. So next week, episode 154. Look out for the post to get your thoughts in for Nightmare in Silver. Regardless of your views, it would be good to have them if you hate it or if you love it, or somewhere in between. Doesn't matter. It's all good. Just go out and also check out the Facebook community as well. On all these posts where we're asking for stuff, there's loads of conversation stuff. It's all good. So we'll see you next week. My name's Gary.
My name's Adam.
And remember, Lozzie.